I'm Jackie. I am the agritourism marketing specialist with the South Carolina Department of Agriculture. So my main work is with agritourism farms and certified roadside markets. But I'm happy to talk about South Carolina Agriculture Council. When I came to the department over 15 years ago, people in our department encouraged me to join the association, the council, and I have gained so much knowledge about South Carolina agriculture, the cutting edge of things that are going on around South Carolina, that I'm passionate about this organization. I don't miss a conference, I don't miss a meeting, and I don't miss an ag tour, of course. So I just want to tell you a little bit about it. If I can figure out how to share the screen, I don't think I can. I'm not there. I good. I did it. That's the important information I want you to have. Lauren was nice enough to make me a little PowerPoint, but it really, I don't like to read a PowerPoint. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about Ag Council. It is called South Carolina Agricultural Council, although we all lovingly call it South Carolina Ag Council. They're both one and the same, but it is a nonprofit organization. It's been around since at least 25 years. And its main purpose is to promote, expand, and improve and enhance the South Carolina agriculture and its related businesses to acquire better understanding and support from the citizens of the state. Actually, so the people who attend Ag Council are a wide band of people around South Carolina. So you, of course, anybody listening should be a part of South Carolina Ag Council. We include representatives from organizations and state agencies, USDA, SCDA, NAS, just a whole wide variety of people of all walks of life. We have people that have never farmed. We have people that enjoy gardening, just a wide variety. So anybody is welcome to join Ag Council, and you'll get a lot out of it. We want to promote South Carolina agriculture, and we going to the meetings are on the cutting edge. We meet 4 times a year for meetings, and they're quarterly. So our next meeting will be in November. I think it's November 10th. We generally meet in Columbia or Casey at Farm Bureau Federation building. We have a wonderful catered lunch. That's always the highlight, is the lunch. And like I said, we meet 4 times a year, and we have topics from, I have a couple just to show you some of the topics. It always seems to be what's new and coming up. One of the really good ones we had just recently had to do with finding places to process your meat in South Carolina. That had become an issue during COVID. And so we had a speaker that talked about what's coming with meat processing in South Carolina. Our last meeting in August, they talked about rural broadband and how it is now being integrated into all counties in South Carolina, which is, if you in a rural area that doesn't have broadband, you're really handicapped. So that's just some of the things that we've talked about. I've had the pleasure to talk about, of course, agritourism and its effect on farming in South Carolina. Dr. Shields was on talking about the heirloom seeds being coming back from bringing those seeds back. I think our next one is going to be from Lacey Burnett. She's from University, I guess it's U of SC now. Soil Health Lab. She'll be talking about soil health. I'm real excited about a future one we're going to have on how they're working to separate the gluten out of wheat. So those who cannot have gluten or have to be gluten-free will be able to have wheat products. So it's all kinds of cutting edge new ideas. So not only do you learn, but you network with people from all over the state that do agriculture. And like I said at the department, I work in one area, so I get to meet people who do all kinds of agriculture that I would never normally meet in my daily life. Another important thing that we do is our ag trips. We have a spring tour and a fall tour every year. And it's a lot of fun, a lot of networking. And I do want to mention, Lauren would kill me if I didn't mention that we do have October 27th is our fall tour. We're going to Wadmalaw Island. We're going to visit Bear Island oysters to see how they manufacture fresh oysters from the sea. We're going to do a wine tasting at Deepwater Vineyard on Wadmalaw, and then we're going to visit the Charleston Tea Garden. Our tours include a bus ride from Columbia, and if you live in the Low Country, you can always come and join us. You don't have to ride the bus, but it includes a nice buffet lunch, and of course, all admissions to everything we get to go and visit. So that's the thing. The main activities, like I said, are 4 times a year. We meet with cutting edge lecture or talk and a lunch. And then twice a year, we have a tour somewhere around South Carolina. And it's kind of neat when you can go to places that no one else can go. Even my agritourism, even these farms don't allow public, like Manchester Farms, due to, regulations, they cannot invite people onto the farm, but we were able to go through the processing plant and see the birds at Manchester Farm. So you get to go to a lot of places that the public does not get to go. That makes it really worthwhile. Does anyone have any questions? I guess I'm rambling on, but as I said, I love Ag Council. I don't miss a quarterly meeting. I don't miss a trip because I gain so much from these encounters that I learned about agriculture that I would not in my normal everyday experience. So I put up on the screen, I think you can all see it, our Secretary Treasurer for Life is Steve Slice, and his contact is up there to call him, his office number, and also we're on Facebook, of course, and all the contact stuff. If you'd like to join the Ag Council, it is on Facebook. And if you'd like to join us for our fall tour, we'd love to have you. This fall tour, I think, is $95. The information is on Facebook and a link to go and sign up. So I think I've covered everything. Is there anything else, Scott, I need to talk about?
No, that's good. Thank you, Jackie. And remember, you can find out more or join via the Facebook at the South Carolina Ag Council. So thank you for joining us today, Jackie, and hope you get some new members out of this.
Thank you.
Thanks. We do have Dr. Richards was able to reconnect with us, and we're going to let him go and give us some more business planning tips and ideas. Steve?
Thanks, Scott. All right. Well, this week or this month, decided to do ag disruptors or not mobile slaughter units. And so Jackie mentioned meat processing in South Carolina, and actually that was me. So it's a great organization that she talked about, and so I'd encourage joining, and I enjoyed speaking at their conference. So is a mobile slaughter unit an ag disruptor or not? Well, let's first describe what one is. It's typically a refrigerated semi-truck or trailer with animal slaughter equipment in the back. And the unit's typically divided into 2 parts, a processing part and a part that actually stores the carcasses and tries to chill them down within the certain period of time they need to be. And there are smaller units for poultry and other animals, and the larger units are typically for red meat. Mobile slaughter units typically, though, are not inspected processing facilities because if they were, the inspector has to ride around in the trailer, or I'm probably in the cab with the driver. But if it was in the trailer, they'd be like, no way. But They typically only have space to have kill or dress the carcasses. They don't have space to actually cut the meat into cuts. So you still need a brick and mortar facility to actually cut the meat up if it's a larger red meat species. Are they disruptors? Well, let's rank these mobile slaughter units from at least my point of view, and feel free to argue. That's good too. But here I'm going to rank it from 1 to 5. So technical ranking. Is this a proven technology? How widely adopted? What's the regulatory environment? Well, there are issues. There's issues with water supply, water disposal. There's also issues with disposal of the offal, the intestines and things like that. And one of the biggest issues, honestly, is it's hard to keep that thing sealed, and flies can get in. So we have lots of issues with flies, especially if there's an outdoor component to the whole thing. And because these issues, that's why they're mostly custom exempt or not processed typically. Or I'm sorry, not inspected, because if they were, these issues would be a serious inspection violation. And also, like I mentioned, the inspector riding around in the facility, in the cab, Virginia just had one built, and they were, as far as I know, they have trouble finding inspectors willing to actually ride in the cab. So technical ranking on that, give it a 3 out of 5. Market ranking. The sell for these units is pretty much increasing slaughter capacity, which I've talked about, like I mentioned. Yes, it's needed, and it's an easy foot in the door, right? It's cheaper than $1 million facility, but there's problems, right? The customers are, and these are the typical marketing issues that I talk about in other disruptor talks. The customers may be too widely dispersed. The price for the product may not be enough to cover the actual cost of operations, or you have to charge such a high price that people are like, well, I'm not sure that the convenience is worth it. There are some advantages. Other people aren't running these, but it also could be the fact that they found that it wasn't viable also. And custom exempt meats, if you're looking to get into the direct to consumer market, cannot be sold as retail cuts. So that's another problem. So marketing rating on this, I give it a 3 out of 5. Economic and financial rating. Well, there are a few issues with that. And I always say, because it's a good thing to do doesn't mean that's a good business idea. The business isn't really scalable. This was the same thing with aquaponics, right? Scalability was an issue. Well, scalability in this particular instance is you got to buy a whole new mobile slaughter facility. So if your capacity is 7 head a day and you want to go to 8 head a day of beef, you got to buy a whole new truck. Not very good. Also the brick and mortar aspect, to have to portion the meat elsewhere, is expensive, and you're not getting out of that expense. And you need to basically fuel, a CDL driver, all that possibly to run the mobile processing units, and that cost also adds up. Poultry, on the other hand, being a smaller unit, and you could actually possibly do and freeze the birds in a chest freezer, possibly in the facility, it might actually work. So I'm talking about red meat species mostly on the bad parts of this. So the economic financial, I give it 2 out of 5. Finally, management and staffing. Like I said, you need a CDL driver. There's probably a shortage. Well, there actually is a shortage of those right now in the United States. So we're going to find that just happens to like this better, maybe. No, I don't think so. The steep learning curve, it could be fairly steep. We still have a lack of skilled butchers in the state. So you're still running into the same problems that we're looking at a fixed facility. It's just this one moves. And to be honest, it's always easier to drive the cow to the facility than the facility to the cow, if you want to sum it up, to be honest. So what's the ranking on this? A 3, give it a total 11. And so for red meat, mobile slaughter units, I say redo your business plan. It's not even feasible, or very unlikely infeasible, or you're going to lose some money. Now, poultry, the jury's still out on that. In fact, Clemson's doing a lot of demonstrations with a mobile unit, and we're doing it for the purposes of training and how to do it in a sanitary way. So it's not like we're doing this to make money or as a service to producers. So you'll see that coming up in the fall, and hopefully for the next couple of years, be driving around the state with that. That could work. So is it a disruptor or not? No, it's not really a groundbreaking technology. There are barriers to entry that you have to jump over, and that prevents other entrants. But a survey done in New Mexico showed that the number of producers wanting to use this in New Mexico, which has plenty of cattle, was about 7 per month. And that's what they needed on a daily basis to actually break even. So the demand's not up there as high as most people want. And a lot of the thoughts were that this mobile unit would be kind of slapped together. It wouldn't be as quality as taking your animal to a facility that's been around for a while. And so that's it for mobile slaughter units. If there's something else that you'd like to hear about on Ag Disruptors, about a business idea, whether or not it ranks well or ranks not so well, feel free to reach out to Scott, Kevin, or myself. And thanks.
Thank you, Steve.
That's my
I appreciate the analysis and the process there, because, you know, when you first hear about increase in slaughter capacity, it sounds like a really good idea. But, you know, as Steve does with this section, you know, as you go through it, it needs some more development or some more thought to go into it. So appreciate you sharing that with us, Steve. And with that, I'm going to turn the program over to Mr. Shep Stearns from the University of Tennessee, and he's going to be talking about some dairy grant opportunities and programs. And so, with that, Shep, I'd like to turn it over to you.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Scott, and thanks everyone for joining and everyone that's kind of viewing after the fact. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I've got some slides to go through on the SDBII program. All right, can you all hear and see me okay?
Yes.
All right, very good. Okay, so like I said, my name is Shep Stearns. I'm a value-added dairy extension specialist at the University of Tennessee, based in the Animal Science Department. So my whole job is to work for the Southeast Dairy Business Innovation Initiative program. And I'm going to give a quick overview of the program as a whole. But again, like Scott said, I'm going to focus on our business grants, which are sort of half of our activities. I've got my email, and that's my cell phone number there. I'm the main contact for our grant programs. So feel free to give me a call if you're interested in having a little bit of a chat after the fact on this. So the Southeast Dairy Business Innovation Initiatives program. So our program is funded by USDA Agricultural Marketing Service. So we are one of 4 sites in the country that hosts a Dairy Business Innovation Grant, which is sort of a new program from AMS that's targeted specifically at increasing the viability of the dairy industry and the country as a whole. So our site is housed at University of Tennessee in the Animal Science Department, the Center for Dairy Research in Wisconsin at UW-Madison. It serves the Midwest. Agency of Agriculture in Vermont serves the Northeast, and a new site just in the last 2 years has been started at Fresno State in California. And our sense is that they'll move from serving California to more of the West in the future. So our program is sort of a multifaceted push that addresses a whole bunch of different aspects of the dairy industry, and it's broadly defined. So large ruminant, so that mostly means cow dairies. Could mean water buffalo. It could mean reindeer, I suppose. But mostly it is focused on traditional cattle dairies and small ruminants. So mostly meaning sheep and goat dairies, which are a small but a growing portion of the industry that we work closely with and have been developing more materials through our program's technical assistance. So we touch on a lot of different areas, from food safety, doing workshops centered around food safety in the dairy plant and on the farm, food quality and product development. So we're broadening out to do more in the provision of services related to milk quality, again on the farm, and then related to handling within the plant environment, and product development. So our here at UT, our food science department has sort of done some trial runs with students to help specific producer processors develop new product lines. One of them recently was a caramel sauce made out of acid whey, which is a byproduct for a goat producer processor dairy. They also did a drinkable yogurt previously with another one of the dairies in Tennessee. So those are areas where we're expanding. So we also do a lot with economic evaluation and benchmarking and decision-making tools. So we have a dairy gauge program, which deals with sort of figuring out costs on the farm and creating a database that can help dairy farmers to have a dashboard and figure out where their costs are in line with other southeastern dairies, and where they're maybe a little bit too high and is an area where they could focus on to try and make some cutbacks. Currently, we're also taking that dairy gauge program and expanding into a processing dairy gauge. So that'll be a tool that, again, creates a benchmark for southeastern dairy processors and producer processors to help figure out their costs and make decisions as far as investments in new product lines and new pieces of equipment, et cetera. And then other emerging issues that are of concern to dairy as a whole. So I'm going to go real quickly through the half of our activities that relate to sort of technical assistance and support workshops. We have an annual conference, and I'm going to try and use the bulk of my presentation to focus on our direct business grants that are available to the 12 southeastern states and Puerto Rico that we work with, because hopefully that's an area where you folks will have lots of questions and interest in either participating in the program if you're a producer or a processor, or if you're an extension specialist or a person in government or in industry, maybe steering some of your folks that are in the dairy industry towards our grants. That this presentation will be helpful to serve as a point of entry for those folks. So our program touches on a lot of different areas. So we're multidisciplinary. So we work across animal science, but food science as well, family and consumer science. We've got we're able to use the funding that we receive from the USDA to kind of borrow experts from lots of different areas, both within our university, but also with partner institutions that include North Carolina A&T, NC State, University of Kentucky, and even Penn State has been helpful in helping us to form some online courses that we'll be offering in the near future on the regulatory environment that's state specific. And we also work closely with industry partners to try and stay abreast of, what is important and useful to the producers in our state and the dairy industry stakeholders that are throughout the region. So we have a sort of an honorary value-added extension specialist at Bluegrass Dairy Ingredients, Eric Goen, who's a expert in terms of plant layout and lots of different elements related to small scale dairy processing, and so he is very generous with his time. Kentucky Dairy Development Council, we borrow two of their sort of regional consultants to help coordinate our grant program and some of our other programmatic elements. And KCARD, Kentucky Center for Agriculture and Rural Development, also helps us out as far as doing business planning and some of that support for folks that are interested in our grant program and sort of need more help in developing their business plan and their marketing plan and expanding their business and planning for growth. So the funding from USDA that makes this all possible. So our program started in 2019 with an initial investment of $450,000. And so since then, we've received 4 additional grants, or we've received 3, and there's an additional 1 pending. So USDA is making a substantial investment at each one of the DBI sites in order to, help to revitalize the American dairy industry, especially with a focus on some of the smaller producers and processors, that have had particularly difficult time over the last decade or so, but also are key to their local economies and huge economic engines for the folks in their surrounding community. So just giving a little bit of a track record on the dairy grants, the dairy business grants that we've been able to do so far. So the one that has been sort of run its full course and we're able to collect information on was the one that was announced in 2019 and sort of took place from 2021 and concluded in the summer of this year. So we found that with the 11 grants that we made through that program, totaling $227,000, that there was a 34% increase in sales for the businesses that were involved in those grants. 51% in the number of customers that they were selling to. So that's in terms of the actual sort of business to business relationships that they formed. 16 new jobs that were created and 22 that were maintained, and an increase in total sales avenues, so new places to make sales, of 17%. In our current ongoing grants that we started with just working with Tennessee in the first phase of funding that we received, and then in the second phase, which was announced last year, folks applied and we accepted 23 of the grant proposals that were on the table, and we expanded our territory from not just Tennessee but to Kentucky and North Carolina as well. So we made a basically $3 million investment, and so these programs are still ongoing, but based on and extrapolating from sort of the previous success with the Tennessee only grant, we anticipate that there could be as much as a $19 million increase in sales as a result of these grants, and potentially as many as 472 jobs maintained and created over the course of the grants that are currently underway. So that's a segue into, I would also sort of urge you folks to go online to our website and take a look at some of the testimonials for the folks that have been involved in our grants previously. There's some pictures and some sort of longer form explanations of their projects and what that's meant for their businesses. So that's linked to below. Hopefully I can share this presentation with Scott, and you all will have an opportunity to go through the slides and use the links. So that's kind of a segue into the grant program that's currently open. There's 2 grants that are available at the moment. And the purpose of these business grants, you know, per the language that's kind of passed down through USDA, is value chain and commodity innovation. So expanding the products that are available and the ways that the milk supply is utilized in the Southeast, facility and process updates for dairy processors. So we're able to give folks money directly in order to kind of catalyze that development to purchase equipment directly, and you know, hopefully move their businesses forward in a way that maybe would take 10 or 20 years to move along. We're helping them kind of take a big jump through these grant applications and grant projects to move forward and make those investments in their business. Product development, packaging, marketing for dairy products. So we're also able to fund folks who, you know, want to try a product out, maybe in a size or flavor that you know, they're not totally sure would work and might not try otherwise, but you know, could be a real hit, and help limit some of that risk for them and branching out a little bit. So the people that can apply for our business grant program are anyone who's a permitted dairy farm or processing facility. So anybody that has a farm that's either grade A or grade B, or has a facility that's grade A, grade B, or you know, if they're doing frozen foods, or if they plan to become permitted as either a farm or a processing facility over the course of the 1-year grant period. So that's a tight period to be able to become permitted. So mostly the folks who are most competitive are already permitted in one way or another. So you know, if they're a dairy farm that's hoping to transition into having a processing facility, then they're eligible for the grant. We might steer them towards a feasibility study, just because it's important, if an investment is being made, that there's sufficient planning on the front end. And the states that we work with, the way that we define the Southeast for the purposes of our grant are Alabama, Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, Louisiana, Mississippi, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, and Puerto Rico as well. So in our logo, we really need to sort of add the island of Puerto Rico at the bottom. So the program contacts for the grant program, I serve both Tennessee and all other southeastern states that I just listed, and Puerto Rico, with the exception of Kentucky and North Carolina. So we're really fortunate in Kentucky to work with Jennifer Hickerson, and her phone and email are listed there. if that applies to you, if you're a chance kind of listener and you're not from South Carolina or North Carolina. We work with Brittany Whitmire and Dr. Stephanie Ward at NC State. My boss, who's in charge of the whole SDBII program, along with a whole bunch of other sort of activities and initiatives as our state dairy specialist, is Dr. Liz Eckelkamp. So she also plays a integral role in our grant program. But you know, if you're looking to have kind of a casual conversation or get a question answered for the purposes of the grant program, then feel free to give me a call anytime or shoot me an email. So you can access grant info and we have a request for proposal, grant application, and a budget worksheet that's currently available on our website on the SDBII grants tab. So that's linked to here again. And you know, that has our FAQ, that has everything that you'll need in order to get the information that is necessary to put together a competitive grant proposal. So I would strongly suggest read that RFP in full. That's kind of the instruction to the grant, and that'll tell you precisely what we can fund, how to be competitive, what information we're looking for in the grant application process. So this is a screenshot from that website. And so you're able to download all of these different elements. When you download the application, I would strongly recommend, it's a PDF. Read through it. You know, just a tip to keep you from losing work. When you're typing directly into a PDF, you know, if you click onto another page, you could lose what you've already written. So I'd recommend just working in Word initially, and then copy and paste that into the application once you're done. So that's where you'll enter in your grant narrative. That'll be sort of the main storytelling component of your grant application. And then the grant budget and some other supplementary materials like quotes and letters of support will also be really integral to your grant application. So the two opportunities that we currently have going are the beginning processor grant. So the focus of the beginning processor grant is for folks that are interested in starting a value-added dairy enterprise, to get the services of a professional to evaluate sort of the legitimacy or the feasibility of undertaking that investment. So the maximum award amount for this program is $30,000. You know, in spite of the name, it could be a beginning processor, it could be somebody who is more established but is looking to add cheese, and they currently do fluid milk and ice cream. It can also be used for services that don't necessarily pertain to a feasibility study, but we have, for instance, an applicant that's interested in doing some succession planning. And so while we can't pay for legal services for a lawsuit, we can pay for legal services to create a trust to make sure that you know, the business entity that exists can pass from one generation to another, or you know, can sort of suit the needs of the current owners to ensure long-term viability. So there are different ways that this grant can be used aside from feasibility studies, but the main focus and the main utilization so far for sort of this stream of applications has been feasibility studies for either a dairy farm that is looking to start a plant or a plant that wants to get into a new enterprise that's related to value-added dairy. And the other grant opportunity that's currently open, so it's 2 opportunities, 1 application. The way that works is outlined in the request for proposal, but the questions that you'll answer are similar, but the requirements are a little bit different for instance, supplementary documentation and things like that. So the specialty equipment investment grant, like its name suggests, is targeted mostly towards purchasing equipment for processing value-added dairy products. So buying a pasteurizer, an HTST, a vat pasteurizer. Although we can't fund much on the farm side, the one element that we can fund that relates to the farm is a bulk tank. So you could put in an application for a larger size bulk tank that would, however, have to tie into some sort of a processing activity. So if you wanted a bulk tank that was twice the size, it would need to be because you were making a similar investment in bottled milk or ice cream or cheese capacity. So it needs to tie into a project that relates to processing in some way. So there's a long list of different equipment that we can fund. Some of it's a little bit more indirect in terms of how it relates to processing. So for instance, walk-in coolers, walk-in freezers are also opportunities for funding. Batch freezers for ice cream, continuous freezers. There's a lot of different areas that we're able to fund for folks to increase their capacity for processing. Boilers, chillers are also investments that we're able to make. So another aspect of this grant is, while the maximum award amount is $300,000, if you're going to apply for more than $150,000 as for your project, there's a little bit more that you'll need to include in terms of support. You'll need to include an updated business plan that covers the grant period. So kind of a before and after you make this investment. Whereas for up to $150,000, a business plan is strongly encouraged. If it's not completely updated, then you're still allowed to apply. But in order to apply for a higher dollar amount, you're really going to need to include letters of support and an updated business plan. And it's also important to keep in mind that the application should be in keeping with the scale of the business as it currently exists. So if you have a small plant and you're saying within a one year grant period you're going to quadruple the amount of capacity in your plant, the proportionality of that is not really going to make sense in the minds of the grant reviewers. So the process for evaluating the merits of the grant applications is going to go through a review committee. So that review committee is anonymous. It's going to be composed of 6 industry professionals and experts. And through your grant application, you really need to sell them on your idea and outcompete the other folks that are applying, and show that this is a good sound investment. You know, grant money is real money. It's taxpayer money, and so it needs to be spent wisely. And the grant should indicate that the reviewers are making a wise investment if they rate your grant highly. So to recap a few of the allowable expenses that we can pay for: feasibility studies, business plans, especially for folks that are part of that new processor grant applicant pool, marketing plans as well, figuring out, you know, what regions are you going to sell to if you're starting a plant. You know, are you out in sort of an isolated area? You know, in that case, it might not make sense to focus mainly on ag tourism and a retail store. It may make more sense to try and do wholesale and delivering directly to stores that are farther away and distributors that are farther away. And we can also cover certain marketing and promotional activities. So we can't promote your business in and of itself, since this is USDA money, and the USDA can't kind of show that favoritism. But if you're starting a new mozzarella cheese line, for instance, then we can pay for new labels for that mozzarella cheese. You know, if you haven't done it before and you're not sure whether or not it's going to be successful, then we can pay for the packaging that's associated with that. And of course, we can pay for all manner of specialized equipment. And if you have questions as far as specific pieces that you'd like an answer on, hopefully we'll have some Q&A at the end. And if not, then you have my email and my cell phone number. So some of the unallowable costs. So real estate purchases of any kind we can't pay for. So you can't use a grant to buy more acreage. You can't use the grant to, you know, buy a retail shop downtown. We can't pay for repayment of loans or mortgages. We cannot pay for rents that are extended beyond the 12-month period. So we're also not allowed to pay for vehicles. So if you'd like to buy a refrigerated truck, unfortunately, we're not able to pay for that, or refrigerated trailer. More or less anything with wheels on it that's roadworthy, we can't pay for. But you could, for instance, rent a retail space, or you could rent a refrigerated truck or trailer for that 12-month grant period. So that's another opportunity if you think that you want to do direct store delivery, or if you think that you want to do sort of a retail in a location that's off of your farmstead, then we can pay rents associated with that for that 12-month period. So legal fees, we can't pay for legal fees associated with lawsuits, or you know, if you have a land dispute with your cousin, we can't pay for that. But if you are interested in forming an LLC, or like I said, doing some succession planning, then those are professional expenses that we can pay for. And of course, we can't pay for lobbying or fundraising or political activities. So like I said, these grant opportunities are currently open. The deadline is November 1st at 5 p.m. You are, because I am not going to serve on the review committee, none of the folks that are part of the regular SDBII faculty and staff are on that committee. That frees us up to be able to give you some input without a fear of conflict of interest on ongoing applications that you may be developing. So if you would like some feedback on a grant, you know, whether it's your narrative or your budget, or any questions you may have on what we can fund, you can send me an email. You can give me a call. I may be a little bit overloaded for the week or two just in advance of the due date, because folks tend to wait until it's pretty close to the submission time to finish things. But I would strongly encourage you, if you're interested, or if you have folks that are interested, to get in touch and if there's anything that seems like a gray area, don't feel shy about reaching out and asking the question. So once you complete the grant PDF, once you complete the fillable budget spreadsheet, and once you've accumulated all your quotes, whether it's for the consultant who's going to do your feasibility study, or for the equipment that you're hoping to purchase, and letters of support, an overhead view of your farm with where you're going to put the equipment for your new cheese line or yogurt line. Once you have your grant narrative, budget, and supplementary documents all prepared, and business plan, you're going to submit those as attachments to SDBII grants@utk.edu, and you're going to wait for a response that says that we've received your application, and that you're good to go. And then after that deadline passes, our review committee will score the grants, and determine who's receiving funding, whether they receive funding in full or in part, and then you'll be notified one way or another by the end of the year. So the grant period is going to go from around January 1st, hopefully, through the end of the year. So we have to work through sort of University of Tennessee in order to get grant contracts signed and fully executed. And so the real start date is going to be just as soon as we can get all that paperwork finished. But it'll be, within hopefully the first 2 months of the year that we're working with, as far as start dates for folks that get approved. So that's all that I have. If folks have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Hopefully I've left enough time. There's something. All right, well, if there aren't any questions, I can either go through the grant application a little bit, or we can end it there and folks can catch up.
I'm sorry, Shep. I was muted and didn't realize. We do have a question. It's, can you apply for the grant multiple times?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Yes, yeah, we encourage folks to reapply, even if they've previously been awarded a grant. We're sure that our funding will continue for at least the next 4 years, so through 2026. So we look favorably on the opportunity to build on previous success, and to keep increasing the capacity of value-added dairy operations throughout the region. So you will have to choose within the grant period between submitting a new processor grant and an equipment investment grant. So you can't kind of play both ends of the field as far as that goes. But yeah, absolutely. It's we hope that people will reapply and continue to increase their capacity.
Are there any other questions? Okay. Well, Shep has shared his contact information, and once the recording is populated, that information will be in there. If you have any questions about the Southeast Area Business Innovation Grants, you can certainly reach out to myself or Kevin, or directly with Shep, and we'll be glad to get you in contact with him. But again, I'd like to thank you for taking time out of your day, Shep, to educate us on this opportunity for dairy producers in South Carolina and across the Southeast.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. It's my pleasure to join.
All right. No other questions. We'll go ahead and adjourn, and we'll be back on the third Wednesday of October with another South Carolina Ag Disruptors. Thank you for attending.